Over the years, there have been a lot of ways to give and get access to Facebook ads accounts. The way that we do that currently is through Facebook Business Manager. It's kind of a parent account to Facebook pages and Facebook ad accounts, just in the same way a Google MCC is a parent account to all of the sub accounts where ads are actually run. You can't really run ads through the MCC specifically, and that's just the same way that Facebook Business Manager is. It's kind of a way to tie all of the assets together and make sure that all the right people have access. To be quite honest, there are a lot of things that are really intricate, and a lot of people get really confused by Facebook Business Manager, myself included sometimes, I'll be completely honest. So what I want to do in this video is try to give an overview of what Facebook Business Manager is, all of the different pieces that you can tie together under a single account login, and how to give and get access, whether it's to an ad account, to an individual user, an employee, an agency you're working with, and make sure everybody has access to the assets that they need. The structure of Facebook Business Manager is relatively simple because it's very similar to Google Ads with an MCC, but it's not always apparent that that's how it's working from the inside of it, unfortunately. So the first scenario I want to go through is, let's say you are an employee of a company and they want to add you to their Facebook Business Manager account. It would probably look something like this. And this can also be if you're not an employee of a company, you're just trying to get access to an account, but that's just a really easy way to relate it. Here you'll use your individual login as your point of access. So this is just somebody adding you as an individual to an account. Somebody at company A here will add your email address to their business manager account, and that will then allow you to access all of the different assets that they have available. The page, the pixel, billing, ad account, there's a lot of other things we'll go through here in just a second. But effectively, when somebody at company A adds your individual email address or your login, however they add you, to their business manager account, you have access to the different pieces within their business manager. So like I said, this is very similar to what it would be if you got added to a company's business manager if you worked there. The first scenario I want to run through is quite frankly the simplest, and that's why I want to start with it. Think of your individual login as kind of your way into any portion of the Facebook Business Manager for any account that's available. So that's why I've got it as the top line, because this is your entry point into Facebook Business Manager. Let's say you get a job at company A, so they add you to their Facebook Business Manager using that individual login. You've now become an employee of company A, and you have access to all of the different assets available. The page, pixel, billing, ad account, all that sort of thing. It's very similar to how a Google MCC will work. It just might feel a little bit more confusing because there's also the page associated with it, which you don't grant access to a website when you get access to a Google Ads account. It's just a little bit different, but since they're all Facebook properties, they all live together under that same business manager for company A. The other thing to know here is that you've just become effectively, in Facebook's eyes, a quote-unquote employee of company A. Whether or not you're actually an employee doesn't matter. That's just the rank that you've been given. But you can be added to multiple different companies' business managers at once. So what I've done here is shown you the same setup for company A, where you have access to all the different assets through that individual login. We've also added company B over here. Just because you're already added to one business manager doesn't mean you can't be added to many, many others. And an example of my account in just a little bit, you'll see that I have access to quite a number of different business managers for one reason or another. But under each of them, I have the opportunity to work on each of the different assets, whether it's the pixel, billing, ad account, of any of those other business manager accounts that are in there. This is probably the most common scenario you're used to, where somebody takes your email address, adds you to a company's business manager, and then you have access to everything that's in there. Again, that would effectively be if somebody added your email address to a Google Ads MCC or a Google Ads account. You now have access to everything within it. This is just if you're a individual person, a contractor, an employee, something like that. There is a second way that you can get access to a company's business manager account, and that's through your own business manager. So this could be if you're an individual consultant and you work with a lot of different companies, you have your own business manager. Or the example I'm going to use here, which is probably the easiest to relate to, is if you're an agency and you work with a lot of different businesses and you have a number of your own employees that you want to be able to assign to different assets. So here, in the same way, I know I keep relating this back to Google Ads, but that's probably just the easiest entry point. Here, in the same way that you can add somebody's MCC to your MCC, you can do the same thing in Facebook Business Manager. So effectively, you can assign a partner, which is Facebook's way of saying you're adding a business to your account, not just an individual user. And then anybody within that business manager will have access. So in this top row, the Your Account section is effectively going to be your agency's business manager. You request access to Company A's business manager so that then you and your employees have access to all of the different assets that are below. So I know this might be a little bit confusing, but hopefully this cleared things up just a little bit. Now let's hop into Facebook Business Manager itself and see it kind of in the real world, and I'll walk you through some of these things, but keep these charts in mind that your touch point is always going to be the top because that's how you gain access. You can do that through an individual user or through a business manager, and you're going to be getting access to a company's business manager and all of the assets that are below it. Let's go ahead and hop into the other interface. The first thing I want to look at here is maybe a little bit of a departure from what normally you would see, but it's something that I think a lot of people run into, is if you have access to multiple different business managers, it's going to show up and look like this. As you can tell, I have access to quite a number of different business managers for one reason or another. I know that they're all blurred out, and I'm sorry for that, but each of the different squares you see in the main portion of the screen is a different business manager. One of the issues I run into a lot with folks is that they don't know if they have a business manager or not, or they're not sure what all business managers they have access to. The easiest thing to do in this scenario is to go to business.facebook.com and see what shows up. This is what happens when I go to business.facebook.com. If you have access to business managers, obviously it'll look something like this. You'll see a square for each one of the business managers you have access to. If you don't, this entire screen will be taken up with a prompt that tells you to create a new business manager account or create a business. As you can tell, you can also still do that on this screen if you want to create a new business manager. I think it's a little less often now than it used to be, but many times when I've worked with companies in the past in an agency capacity, they don't have a business manager account set up yet, and this is the easiest way to get them to start that process to create a business manager, because from now on, you have to have a business manager in Facebook to be able to run ads, have your page, all that kind of stuff. So if you're working with somebody who doesn't have one, start off by telling them to create a business and then take the steps from there. What I'm going to do for the rest of this video is just hop into one of these business manager accounts and walk you through some of the pieces that are in here. So here I am on the home screen of a business manager. And in case you couldn't tell, for the majority of this video, a bunch of this is going to be blocked out. I'm very sorry. I'll try to walk you through it as much as I can. But as you can tell, there are a number of different things here that kind of pop up on this home screen. So first it tells me good morning, which is very nice. But then there are a number of different sections. So in this main section, we have the list of ad accounts that I have access to, and the pages are below. I'm not going to scroll, but this is just basically the end of the list. There's nothing below pages. Over on the right, you can see a number of alerts based on the account that's been set up. If you're anything like me, you're having a number of different accounts that are having ads disapproved for no reason. So that's why we've got a few alerts popping up over here. Every once in a while, there'll be a new announcement by Facebook. They leave that down here in the bottom right where it's super easy to find. But then the main navigation of everything in Business Manager is going to be over here on the left. And I want to walk through this really quickly. The first thing you can see is that this dropdown is effectively going to take me back to the list of business managers that I saw before. I'm not going to open it up because then it's just going to show you the same list that we have to blur out. But if you needed to shift into a different business manager, you can do that here. So that part is a little bit helpful. They have a few quick links down here to get to either Ads Manager, the Audiences Manager, Ads Reporting, the Account Settings, your Business Manager settings, which are very different from an individual account setting, and then Events Manager, which is where you would create custom conversions, you manage the pixel, all that good stuff. The larger menu is actually going to be up here in this 9-dot section. You can see Business Tools. So let's open that up. And here you'll see that it starts off with some shortcuts. It has some of the things that are the same that are over there on the left, but it's got a couple different ones: Account Quality, Catalog Manager. As you can see over here, there is quite a lot of different things, so you can scroll down. Instead of looking at them in this list, I'm actually going to click this little button to expand the menu. Here you can see all the tools that are available in a business manager account. So there's quite a lot of things going on here, and there's a number of different sections. So let's just walk through each of these. I'm not going to talk about each of the individual pieces, but I'll try and call out the ones that I think get used most often, because I do want to run you through everything that's in here, because I think people just, quite frankly, don't understand what all is available in Business Manager. So this first section is going to be about managing the business itself. Account quality This is one where, again, if you've had any of those issues where your ads are getting rejected, account quality is kind of a newer section where you can go in, request a review. It'll tell you if it upheld its ruling or if Facebook overturned and now your ads are active. So this is a really helpful section if you're having some of those issues. Next, we have billing. So any of the billing information you need to have for any of your ad accounts. This is pretty self-explanatory. Brand safety is where if you want to block some placements, make sure that you're showing up in certain areas around the web. This is a good thing to make sure that you've got everything on lock there. Business settings, we're actually going to go through that in just a little bit, but a few of these are relatively common uses and are pretty self-explanatory. Events manager, this is where, again, you would be able to access the pixel for an ad account, set up any custom conversions, or create any of the additional pixel event fires. We have a video on that if you want to go check that out. And overall, that's kind of how you would manage the business itself. So let's go into the next section here, and that's for advertise. This is where a lot of us probably live more often than not. And that's going to be this ads manager piece down here. This is what we see all the time. This is what a lot of our videos end up walking through. But there are a few other things you can do in this advertise section as well. You can work on automated rules. You can find the audiences manager, all this good stuff. You can also look at Creative Hub from here. Again, we have another video on that if you want to go check that out. Next is going to be the analyze and report section. So here we can see that there is Facebook's ad reporting tool where you can create custom reports that are looking only at the metrics that you want without having to fight the interface for the data. You can also get access to Facebook Analytics, the Audience Insights tool, which is one of my favorites. You can work on the attribution models, all these different things, and you can set up campaign experiments in this section. The last couple of sections are a little bit different. So just engaging customers. So the Creator Studio, which is where you can actually create different posts, videos, answer messages, all these kind of things, or the page post section where you can take all of the different posts that you already have available and look at the stats, maybe promote it to a campaign. And then lastly, we have sell products and services. So whether you're trying to sell a product or service on Facebook, on your website, if you're using a catalog, or if you have different business data around your different commerce options, this is where you would find those different pieces available. So again, look through this on your own time, check out everything that is available. This bigger option, if you'll remember, is just from these 9 dots, and I clicked expand menu. That way you can get the description. But if you're going over and you only want to stick in this little menu here, all of these are the same. They just don't have the description that's with them. So everything is still available there. Like I said earlier, most of the videos that we do end up showing what's happening in Ads Manager. But since we're trying to talk about Business Manager and what all it can do, I'm actually going to click Business Settings. And this is a section that I think gets a lot of people really confused how this works. So let's hop in there. So here's the home page for the business settings portion of Business Manager. This is where we're going to actually be able to give access to different users, whether they're part of our organization, like an employee, or if we're going to try and work with an outside partner, like an agency or a consultant, something along those lines. So the first thing I want to talk about is, let's assume you are an agency. Let's just treat this as an agency account and start to look at how we would give access to different people. Luckily, this is where you land when you go into Business Manager, is the people section, and you can see that over here. So this users portion is going to be a top navigation where you can add people, partners, and then there's system users available, but we're just going to look at people and partners today. So first, let's just look at how this is set up. We have the entire business account set up here, and then for people, you'll see that there are listed individual members over here. There are 3 of them. And you can see my name down here at the bottom because I have access to this Business Manager, obviously. We'll just keep my name visible here so I can show you kind of what all is available. But effectively what we're doing here is showing that these 3 individuals are quote unquote employees of this Business Manager. So I am an employee in this Business Manager, and I have a shield here because I am an admin, which means that I can see everything going around in here. Then any of the assets or anything like that will be over in this section, and we'll talk about a few more of those in just a minute. Right now, having them all viewed this way is going to be a little bit more confusing, but what I want to talk about is how you add individual users. So you would come up here and click add. You can then enter the person's email address, and then you can decide which role you want to assign them. This person, again, like I said, is going to be considered an employee of this Business Manager. That's how Facebook is going to call them, whether they're actually your employee or not. But you can give them employee access, which is going to be the default. And that means that they will only be able to see select projects that you assign to them, or they can be a business admin like me, which means that you can see everything available in this Business Manager, can edit settings, people, accounts, tools, all this good stuff. So effectively, you'll just add an email address, you'll go through a couple of steps. They'll accept the invite on their side, just as you would any other platform. And then they'll show up over here either with or without the badge, depending on what level of access you wanted to give them. And keep in mind, that level of access is important, and I think a lot of people get confused by who can see what. So I'll talk about that here in a little bit, but first I want to talk about how you would grant access or request access from a partner as well. So next, let's say that you want to work with an agency. Let's shift out of the agency mindset and say you're a business and you want to work with an agency, so you want to get access there. To do that, you would come over to partners. And right now, because of the way that we have this set up and a video that we've just done, you can see that Microsoft is actually one that's showing up here, and that's the one I have selected. And they have access to the page and ad account for Paid Media Pros because we wanted to integrate them so that effectively Microsoft has access to these two assets so that they can use them and publish on our behalf. So in this scenario, treating Microsoft as the outside entity or outside agency, let's show what it would look like to set that up. Just in the same way you would add an employee, you come up to add, and then you have two different options. You can either give a partner access to your assets, which we've just done through Microsoft, which is what you would do if you're trying to give an agency access, or you can ask a partner to share their access, which, just flipping it on its head, if you were the agency and wanted to work with a specific company, you would ask them to share their assets, their page and ad account with you so that you can work on them. So let's go ahead and see what that process looks like. So ask a partner to share their assets. Facebook will have this little pop-up here, and the things that you need to have before you do this: one, you need to make sure that the company that you're going to work with has a Facebook Business Manager account. Again, that's a common thing. They just need to go to business.facebook.com to set one up if they don't already have one. You need to have their business ID, so that's something that they need to share with you. I'll show you where that is here in just a second. Then you also need the contact's name and email. So the person that you're working with that has access to that business manager, you need their information. Just to get started, I'll show you the same thing here. You need the contact name and their email address, then you need the business ID, and then it'll show the information that you have, what's going to be shared. And then in the partnership info, you need to choose what roles each of you will have. So your business, are you a brand or business? Are you a media agency, or are you something else? The same thing for your partner. Are they a brand or business, the media agency, or something else? You would set up all this information, run through. There are a number of different steps, but I do want to show you where that business ID is really quickly. So let's X out of here. Down over in the bottom left of this navigation is going to be a section called Business Info. So you'll click here, and at the top you'll find your identity information next to this profile. The Business Manager ID is going to be right here, right above the primary page that is listed. Sorry, this is blurred out. You don't need to see what the business ID is, but this is where it'll show up. So when you're trying to tell somebody to give you the Business Manager ID, or if you need to find it, it is in this Business Info section down at the bottom and right up next to your business information at the top. So now let's hop back into the partner section because I want to show you the other option, which is giving a partner access to your assets. So let's click that. So here again, you need the business partner ID, same thing we just talked about. When you add the partner ID here, they'll now have access to the different portions of your Facebook Business Manager that you want them to, but you will remain control of the asset. So whether it's the page, the ad account, any of those different pieces. So again, there's a setup process you have to go through here that we're not going to run through today, but that's how you would do that if you wanted to grant access to an agency or a third party. The last thing I want to talk about is how you get access to individual assets within a business manager, because I think this gets a little bit confusing to people. So let's start off by looking at ad accounts, and that's going to be over here on the left under accounts. Pages and ad accounts are going to be the most common things that you need. So starting off here, I've clicked ad accounts, and now just in the same way that we saw all of the employees listed under the people section, all of the ad accounts are going to be listed in this middle portion of the screen, this column here. Each of these different line items is an ad account that we have access to. You can get access to additional accounts directly from the screen by clicking add, and there are going to be three different options that pop up. Add an ad account, which means that your business will control the campaigns and billing for that ad account. You're effectively claiming it as your own, which means that that ad account, at least in the past, is now property of your business manager, and it's hard to get that back out later on. So if you are trying to claim a business that is yours, that you've run someplace else, that you're just trying to get control back of, this is what you want. But if you're an agency that is working with another company temporarily or potentially temporarily, depending on how long your contract is, what you want is request access to an ad account. This means that you need access to manage the campaigns on behalf of that business, but the ad account still belongs to the current owner. It still lives in the current business manager. This is the ideal setup for an agency because then the business still controls their account. They still own it, but you have access to work on it. The last scenario here is to create a new ad account. So if you want to own a new ad account for your business, this is what you would do. If a partner that you're working with or the business that you're working with, again, you're the agency, they're the business, if they don't have an ad account set up, it's actually better if they create their own ad account through this process in their own business manager, and then you request access to it rather than you creating the account from scratch. Because again, if you create it from scratch, you own it, you own everything about it, and the business does not. So if you part ways in the future, your contract is over, they decide to go someplace else, this can be a big headache to get this account back out and get them access to their data. Odds are what you want to do is have the other business own the account and you just request access to it. Pretty easy once you do want to request access. You just need the ad account ID, or you can have them add you as a partner through the process that we just looked at. And the nice part here is that Facebook actually went ahead and put our business ID right here. You can copy it to a clipboard and then send it off to the user. There are a couple different ways to do that, but that's going to be the easiest one. The last thing that I want to talk about is managing assets within a business manager account. And this is something that I alluded to earlier, that it does matter whether or not you are an admin or if you're an employee of the company. And the biggest thing to think about here is what assets individuals can see. Because I am an admin, I can see all of the different ad accounts, pages, all that stuff that this business manager has access to, whether I've been assigned to work on it or not. So let's hop back into this ad account section. And here's where I want to draw this distinction. The ad account that is currently chosen, I can see it because I'm a business admin. I know that it belongs in our business manager account. I know that it's available. But if you look over here in this section under people, I am not listed. I am neither of these options, which means that if I were in the ad accounts manager, if I were in the ads manager, this account would not show up from my drop-down list. This is the most common problem that I hear employees of a company have. They know that their agency has gotten access to a Facebook ad account, but they can't see it because this last step hasn't been taken. So what you would do once you have an ad account added into your business manager, you still have to add individual employees and users to work on it. So you can do that either up here or over here. It's all the same thing. So if I wanted to add myself to this ad account, I would just click add people. It'll show you all of the different individual employees you have within this company. So I can just click myself. I would toggle whichever options are available. This account, we can only see performance, but if you had other options like manage campaign, creative hub, or if you could be an admin of an account, you can set all those different settings here and then just click assign. My name now shows up over here. So if I were in Ads Manager and I wanted to toggle to this account, it would now show up in my dropdown. So if you're hearing your employees can't see an ad account, this is likely the last step you need to take. If you then decide that you want to switch team members, if somebody's going to work on a different account and you want to remove somebody, it's very easy to come over here and just click the trash can. You can then confirm to remove me from this account, and now I'm no longer listed. So it's pretty simple to add people within your own business manager to an account or take them off, whatever makes the most sense. The last step is that you need to do this same process for pages as well. So here we've got the pages admin section, and we have all of the pages that we have access to, and then the individual users who have access to those pages. The second biggest issue that happens within Business Manager is somebody has been granted access to the ad account, but not the page. What that means is that they can set up campaigns, ad sets, audiences, all of these different things. But the problem comes when you want to create an actual ad. You write the headline, you put in the media, you try to get all of your dynamic parameters set up in place, and then you go to publish. And because you don't have access to the page, you've not been granted the certain level of access that you need for that page, you cannot publish an ad that comes from a different company's page. So when you want somebody to do everything in your ads account, from creating the campaign all the way to launching new creative, you need to give them access to the ad account as well as the page so they can publish on your behalf. Even though ads don't go directly onto your Facebook page, they're being published in your Facebook page's name. So you have to make sure they have access to do that as well. I'm going to hop back into PowerPoint really quickly just to try to illustrate this with some smart art because this might have gotten confusing. So I do want to try and be as clear about how this works as I possibly can. So kind of summing up what we just talked about, there are effectively two different types of things you can have within your business manager account, and you need to make sure you tie them together so they can be seen and managed appropriately. You have your team off on the left, so that's either your individual people or partners on the account. And then you have the assets. So the ad account, page, we haven't gone through all the others yet. We're not going to, but these are the two that are going to be the most common. So let's say you only really need to assign your first employee to a specific company's ad account and page to work on it, but you're not going to have the second employee work on it. This is where you need to make sure that you not only have the employee and the ad account and page in your business manager and all synced up like we just talked about getting and giving access to, but you also need to make sure that you have assigned them to those individual assets. You only need to assign the first employee because they're going to be the ones who work on it, and then you can leave the second one off to make sure that you're not cluttering up their homepage for different ad accounts and Facebook business pages that they're not actually going to be working on. In this scenario, if these two are only employees, then employee A will only see what they have access to and employee B will not see this. But if these two folks both have admin access, they're kind of the admin portion of Business Manager, then they'll both be able to see all of the ad accounts and pages like I can in the examples that we have, even if I'm not assigned to them. Just remember how each of these impacts what somebody can see and what they can work on in Facebook Business Manager. Back in Business Manager, there are still a lot of other things that are available over here. The same access points can be given for Instagram accounts, apps, WhatsApp accounts. There's also different things over here around data sources, which are going to be your catalogs, pixels, custom conversions, all this stuff. There's a lot of different things available. I'm not going to go through each of these because a lot of them function, quite frankly, the same way, and it would just be redundant for me to go through each of them. But take a look into all of these different sections over here, all the different things you can give or get access to, and run through those and make sure you have everything squared away so you can run the ads for your company or your partner companies from start to finish the way that they need you to. Thanks for watching our video. If you thought it was useful, give us a thumbs up below.
We release a new video at least once a week, so if you want to get notified of when a new one comes out, be sure to subscribe to the Paid Media Pros channel.